We begin by closing our eyes and imagining a world where time itself moves more slowly, where the hum of life is measured not by clocks or screens, but by the subtle rhythms of the earth, the sun, and the moon. In this quiet space, we feel the weight of history pressing gently against our consciousness, inviting us to listen to the echoes of civilizations long past. There are technologies that once existed, marvels of human ingenuity, that have disappeared from memory, leaving behind only traces, fragments, or cryptic whispers carved in stone. Some were simple, practical tools. Others were extraordinary mechanisms that hint at knowledge far ahead of their time. They linger in the spaces between fact and legend, waiting for our imagination to reconstruct them, to breathe life into the faint outlines of their existence. As we drift through this imagined past, it becomes clear that human memory is fragile yet persistent. We inherit the residue of ancient minds in subtle ways, through the precise alignment of a pyramid, the delicate gears of a sun clock, or the hidden passageways of a forgotten city. And yet, for every artifact that survives, there are countless others that were deliberately buried, lost in the chaos of war, decay, or neglect. Why were some discoveries remembered while others vanished? Was it chance, or was there an intention to hide knowledge from future generations? Perhaps because it was too powerful, too dangerous, or too inexplicable for the society that created it. The air grows still as we wander through the ruins of forgotten temples and silent cities. We can almost hear the faint vibrations of ancient workshops, the clink of metal on metal, the soft hiss of water flowing through ingenious aqueducts, and the whisper of pages in manuscripts that have crumbled to dust. It is here, in these quiet spaces, that we sense the pulse of human innovation, the drive to understand, to create, and to manipulate the world in ways that we might now consider impossible. Each lost technology is a silent storyteller, hinting at human brilliance, at moments when imagination exceeded the boundaries of what was thought possible. Even as we marvel at what remains, there is a shadow of mystery that softens the edges of understanding. Some mechanisms were so complex that even the scholars who uncovered them could only guess at their function. Others were encoded in symbols, inscriptions, or diagrams whose meaning has been obscured by time, leaving us to wonder whether we are seeing the skeleton of their purpose or a complete misinterpretation. The line between fact and myth becomes blurred, and the very act of pondering these vanished technologies becomes an invitation to travel between the known and the unknown. We feel a gentle contrast between light and dark, between what humanity has preserved and what has been lost. The objects that survive, bathed in the glow of discovery, are fragile reminders of ingenuity, while the vast spaces where knowledge has disappeared remain as shadows, inviting contemplation. It is a duality that stretches across time. Civilizations rise, innovate, and sometimes vanish, leaving behind fragments that speak of their capabilities and hint at the knowledge they carried away into oblivion. In these shadows, our curiosity awakens, drawn to the question of what might have been, what secrets were carefully tucked away, and what lessons the past still holds for those who listen quietly enough. As the imagination drifts over these ancient landscapes, it becomes apparent that history is not merely a record of events, but also a story of forgetting. The technologies we remember are often the ones that were easiest to preserve or that align with the narratives of power and culture. The rest, the extraordinary and inexplicable, slips quietly into obscurity, existing now only in fragments, in whispers passed down through generations, in sketches on faded papyrus, or etched into stone with symbols whose meaning is lost to time. And yet, even these remnants possess a subtle energy, a sense of purpose that reaches across millennia, inviting us to contemplate the ingenuity of our ancestors and the fragility of knowledge itself. In this gentle meditation on memory and invention, we are encouraged to slow our thoughts, to sink into a rhythm that mirrors the unfolding of time itself. We are guided to appreciate both the brilliance of what has survived and the haunting mystery of what has vanished. By listening to the faint echoes of forgotten technologies, we begin to perceive the pulse of human curiosity and creation, a pulse that continues even now beneath the surface of modern life, quiet yet insistent. These early inventions, once powerful and profound, now exist in the liminal space between presence and absence, beckoning us to remember, to imagine, and to wonder. And so, as we drift deeper into this world of forgotten knowledge, the mind softens, curiosity stirs, and the imagination stretches across centuries. The ancient technologies that have slipped through the cracks of history are not merely relics. They are invitations to connect with the ingenuity, ambition, and mystery of those who came before us. They remind us that history is alive not only in what is recorded, but also in what is lost, in what remains just beyond the reach of our understanding. In this quiet contemplation, we find a pathway into wonder, a gentle opening for the mind to explore, drift, and fall asleep to the hum of history's hidden heartbeat. As we continue our journey through the quiet corridors of time, we encounter the marvels of human ingenuity in their grandest forms. These are the structures and mechanisms that speak not only of practicality, but of imagination that seems almost otherworldly. The pyramids of Egypt rise silently against the horizon, their massive stones perfectly aligned with the cardinal points, their surfaces worn but still resonant with the rhythm of human labor and intention. Across continents, the ziggurats of Mesopotamia climb toward the sky, terraced platforms of brick and clay that once echoed with the chants and prayers of ancient priests, hinting at a deep understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering. And yet, as we admire their scale, a quiet question lingers. How could civilizations, without our modern tools or machinery, achieve such precision and harmony? The mind begins to wander through these monumental spaces, tracing the careful placement of stones, the subtle slopes of stairways, the hidden chambers whose purpose may never be fully understood. There is a deliberate rhythm to their construction, a cadence that reflects both human ingenuity and an intimate observation of the natural world. In each stone, in each carved relief, there is evidence of an intelligence that comprehended not only geometry and weight, but the interplay of light and shadow, the alignment of the stars, and the subtle forces of nature that guided construction. Modern engineers marvel at the precision achieved without advanced technology, while archaeologists puzzle over the techniques that must have been employed, many of which are lost to history. And yet, these marvels are not confined to monuments alone. Across the ancient world, we find the remnants of bridges, roads, and aqueducts that speak of practical genius, as astonishing as the symbolic. The Roman aqueducts, stretching across valleys and rivers, carried water with a precision that allowed entire cities to flourish. The suspension bridges of pre-Columbian South America spanned gorges with materials that would seem fragile to the untrained eye, yet they endured for centuries. These achievements, built in harmony with the land and its natural forces, reveal a deep comprehension of physics, engineering, and material science, knowledge that seems to have been both practical and sacred. Each surviving structure is a testament to the patience, vision, and discipline of minds that existed long before the rise of modern technology. As our attention shifts from the monumental to the subtle, we notice the delicate ingenuity embedded in everyday tools, from bronze chisels to complex measuring devices, and even to early automata. Each artifact is a small miracle, a window into a world where necessity and imagination intertwined seamlessly. These devices, often overlooked, suggest that ancient societies may have possessed a sophisticated understanding of mechanics, balance, and force, applied not only to labor and agriculture, but also to art, ritual, and exploration. Even the simplest instruments, shaped by hand and polished by repeated use, carry the weight of centuries of experimentation and refinement. They hint at a continuity of knowledge, a lineage of thought that quietly shaped the trajectory of human innovation. What makes these discoveries all the more compelling is the sense of mystery surrounding their creation. Many techniques were never documented, or their records have been lost, leaving only the finished objects to testify to their existence. How were massive stones transported with such precision? How did early architects calculate weight and stress without the tools of modern engineering? In every corner of the ancient world, from the temples of Karnak to the citadels of the Indus Valley, we encounter this paradox. Structures of immense complexity and beauty, built with skill and knowledge that has been partly erased by time. This gap between what was possible and what we now understand invites the imagination to fill in the blanks, creating a sense of awe and wonder that is both meditative and hypnotic. As we move through this quiet reflection, we notice the subtle patterns that connect these innovations across continents and cultures. Despite the differences in materials, geography, and societal structures, there is a shared vision, a pursuit of harmony, precision, and permanence. The alignments of structures with celestial bodies, the careful distribution of weight in massive stone blocks, and the integration of water, light, and sound all suggest an underlying philosophy that guided human creativity. These civilizations, separated by thousands of miles and decades, seem to speak in a common language of ingenuity, one that transcends time and geography, whispering to us across centuries. We pause to consider the human element in these achievements. The laborers who hauled stones, the artisans who carved intricate reliefs, the architects who calculated and planned in silence. Each contributed to creations that were far greater than themselves. In these moments, the scale of ingenuity is inseparable from the scale of patience, discipline, and collective effort. There is a meditative rhythm here, one that reflects the slow cadence of human thought and collaboration, a quiet testament to the power of persistence and vision. Even without understanding every detail, we can sense the pulse of intention, the quiet heartbeat of civilizations striving to leave a mark on the world. Yet, as much as we can marvel at the brilliance of these creations, there remains an undercurrent of mystery. Some structures, mechanisms, and alignments suggest knowledge that may have been deliberately obscured or lost. Was it forgotten through natural decay, or were these innovations hidden to preserve power, protect sacred knowledge, or maintain societal control? The idea that certain technologies were meant to vanish from history adds a layer of intrigue to our reflections, inviting viewers to drift deeper into thought, curiosity, and gentle wonder. It is a subtle tension, a whisper of both light and shadow, that carries the imagination forward while keeping the pace calm and soothing. As we let our minds wander among these ancient marvels, we begin to perceive a larger pattern, a rhythm that connects past and present. There is a harmony between human imagination and the natural world, between observation and creation, that echoes quietly through time. These structures are not merely monuments. They are living reminders of curiosity, discipline, and the desire to transcend limitation. By contemplating them, we are invited into the same reflective state as the architects and artisans of old, to move slowly through ideas, to notice detail and proportion, and to sense the wonder that guided every calculation and placement. And so, we drift through these ancient landscapes with a quiet sense of reverence and fascination. The pyramids, ziggurats, aqueducts, and hidden devices all form a tapestry of ingenuity that speaks to the heights of human creativity and the mysteries that remain just beyond our grasp. Each marvel is a gentle reminder that our ancestors were capable of extraordinary thought, that their knowledge stretched beyond what we can fully comprehend, and that the echoes of their achievements remain to guide our imagination. In this calm contemplation, we are both witnesses and participants, moving through history with a sense of wonder, a sense of curiosity, and a sense of peace, ready to continue our journey into the deeper, quieter, and more mysterious realms of ancient technology. As our journey through the echoes of human ingenuity continues, we turn from monumental structures to the intricate devices that reveal the subtle brilliance of ancient minds. While the pyramids and aqueducts tell stories of collective labor and grand vision, the smaller, precise mechanisms whisper of individual creativity, curiosity, and ingenuity that often surpasses modern expectations. Among these devices, some appear almost magical, their complexity far beyond what should have been possible in their time. They speak of civilizations that understood gears, ratios, and movement, crafting machines that could measure, calculate, and even predict, bridging the gap between observation and imagination in ways that remain partially enigmatic to this day. Perhaps the most famous of these is the Antikythera mechanism, recovered from a shipwreck off the coast of Greece. This small bronze device, no larger than a shoebox, contained interlocking gears capable of predicting the positions of celestial bodies with astonishing accuracy. For centuries, it was dismissed as an anomaly, an artifact too sophisticated to belong to its time. Yet careful study has revealed that its makers possessed knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and engineering that would not be seen again for over a millennium. The Antikythera mechanism is not just a machine. It is a window into a mind that saw the cosmos with clarity, translating celestial patterns into tangible, rotating gears. Its existence invites reflection. What other devices might have existed, now lost to history, that could have reshaped the understanding of their era? Beyond the Antikythera mechanism, we encounter early water clocks, automata, and mechanical devices described in text that have survived only in fragments. These inventions, ranging from moving figurines powered by flowing water to complex astronomical instruments, suggest that ancient engineers were experimenting with principles of motion, energy, and mechanics in ways that were far ahead of their time. Some devices were used for practical purposes, measuring time, predicting celestial events, or automating repetitive tasks, while others seem to have been designed for spectacle, blending artistry and engineering to create illusions that inspire wonder even centuries later. The line between function and enchantment is often blurred, and this ambiguity fuels the sense of mystery that wraps around these objects like a soft, imperceptible fog. It is remarkable to consider that while modern society often associates complex machinery with electricity and digital systems, ancient engineers relied entirely on natural forces, gravity, water, wind, and human effort. They understood how to harness these forces with precision, translating observation into movement and calculation into tangible effect. Every gear, every lever, every pulley tells a story of experimentation and refinement, a quiet testament to the ingenuity of minds unencumbered by modern assumptions. In the quiet contemplation of these devices, we sense a rhythm that is both deliberate and poetic, a cadence of creation that speaks to the timelessness of curiosity. And yet, there's a profound tension between what has survived and what has been lost. Many of these intricate devices existed in numbers, replicated across workshops, yet time has claimed almost all of them. Some were destroyed in wars or natural disasters. Others may have been deliberately dismantled or hidden to preserve secrets of power or knowledge. The Antikythera mechanism, for instance, is thought to be one of many, but it is the only example that has endured in our time. This paradox, sophisticated technology existing yet vanishing from the historical record, raises subtle but compelling questions. Were these innovations a common part of everyday life, or were they reserved for the elite, the priesthood, or secretive societies? Why has history remembered so little of their brilliance? And what does this selective preservation tell us about the priorities and fears of the civilizations that created them? Exploring automata reveals another layer of ingenuity, a delicate interplay of mechanics and artistry. Ancient engineers in Greece, China, and the Middle East constructed mechanical birds that could chirp, statues that could move, and devices that could pour wine or ring bells. These inventions were often described with reverent awe in historical texts, yet few physical examples have survived. The descriptions alone, however, hint at a sophisticated understanding of gears, levers, and sequences of movement that rivals the capabilities of early modern engineers. In imagining these devices in motion, we see not only the technical skill, but also the aesthetic and philosophical intentions behind their creation. Machines designed to evoke wonder, reflection, and contemplation. It is in the study of these devices that the boundaries between fact and speculation begin to blur. Some artifacts, such as fragmented mechanical inscriptions or cryptic descriptions in manuscripts, offer tantalizing hints of functionality that we cannot fully reconstruct. Modern researchers have recreated models based on these descriptions, revealing plausible mechanisms. Yet each reconstruction carries an air of uncertainty. This uncertainty, far from diminishing the marvel, enhances the meditative quality of reflection. In considering the intentions of the ancient engineers, we are invited into a space of quiet curiosity, where imagination meets historical evidence, and the mind can wander freely across the centuries, contemplating the genius of vanished minds. As we drift further into this realm of quiet wonder, it becomes clear that these mechanisms are more than technological artifacts. They are philosophical statements. They reflect a worldview in which observation, experimentation, and creativity were deeply intertwined with an understanding of the cosmos and humanity's place within it. The careful calculation of gear ratios, the rhythmic flow of water through channels, the orchestration of movement in automata, all reveal a consciousness that saw patterns in nature and sought to emulate them, to understand them, and, in some cases, to imitate their beauty. These were not inventions made merely for function. They were embodiments of curiosity, imagination, and reverence for the hidden structures of the world. We begin to sense a pattern in these mechanical wonders. They are often small, precise, and designed with subtlety, contrasting with the monumental architecture we explored earlier. Whereas the pyramids and aqueducts speak of collective effort and public awe, these devices reveal the intimate, personal genius of individual inventors or small workshops. They suggest a culture that valued ingenuity, observation, and experimentation, even if the full impact of their creations was never widely disseminated or understood. The quiet persistence of these mechanisms across time reflects the resilience of human curiosity, the drive to solve problems, to explore possibilities, and to leave traces of intellect that endure beyond the lifespan of empires. Yet, amid this admiration, there is also a sense of melancholy. So many devices have vanished, their knowledge scattered or suppressed, leaving gaps in the story of human technological evolution. The act of pondering these lost machines becomes a meditation on impermanence and the fragility of memory. The machines themselves, now silent, await rediscovery, inviting us to imagine their motion, to reconstruct their purpose in our minds, and to honor the brilliance of those who came before. In this act of reflection, curiosity and imagination intertwine, creating a calm, hypnotic rhythm that guides the mind gently forward, deeper into the mysteries of ancient ingenuity. As we let our thoughts linger over these devices, imagining gears turning, water flowing, and mechanisms moving in orchestrated harmony, we feel the quiet pulse of ancient minds. The Antikythera mechanism, automata, and water clocks all become conduits for contemplation, inviting us to sense the rhythm of innovation that once coursed through workshops and temples. In this meditative state, the boundaries between past and present, known and unknown, begin to soften. We feel connected to the inventors across time, sharing in their curiosity, their experimentation, and their wonder at the possibilities that lie just beyond the reach of understanding. In this space, we are not merely observers. We are participants in the quiet continuity of human ingenuity. Each gear, lever, and carefully crafted component is a whisper from the past, a gentle invitation to explore, imagine, and marvel. These machines, once alive with motion and purpose, now live again in our reflection, carrying forward the quiet, persistent heartbeat of curiosity that defines the human spirit. As we drift through these thoughts, we prepare to explore the ways in which such ingenuity intersects with hidden knowledge and deliberate secrecy, guiding us toward even deeper mysteries that the ancients may have hoped we would never fully uncover. As we move from the intricate gears of ancient machines, the hum of their silent ingenuity still lingering in the mind, we begin to sense a broader rhythm, a pattern that stretches across centuries, connecting the monumental with the minute, the public with the private, the known with the hidden. There is a quiet continuity in human curiosity, a thread that binds civilizations together through observation, experimentation, and imagination. It is not only the grand pyramids or the delicate automata that speak to this continuity, but also the countless tools, sketches, and fragments that survive, hints of knowledge that once flourished and now flicker faintly in the shadows of history. These remnants encourage a gentle reflection on what it means to invent, to innovate, and to leave traces of thought behind, even when their full purpose may never be fully understood. In this quiet contemplation, it becomes apparent that ancient technology was often intertwined with philosophy, ritual, and an intimate awareness of the natural world. Mechanisms were not just instruments for measurement or spectacle. They were expressions of an understanding that sought to harmonize human activity with cosmic rhythms. The flowing water of aqueducts, the movement of gears in automata, the precise orientation of temples, all reveal an awareness of forces beyond the immediate, a comprehension that stretches from earthly labor to celestial observation. In observing these connections, we begin to notice the subtle echoes of ingenuity that persist even in civilizations long gone, whispers of ideas that shaped human thought and experience in ways we are only beginning to appreciate. There is also a quiet mystery embedded in these reflections. While some knowledge has survived through monuments, manuscripts, and mechanisms, much has been lost, hidden, or deliberately obscured. Societies may have chosen to preserve certain inventions while allowing others to vanish, whether for reasons of secrecy, control, or reverence. Perhaps some ideas were considered too dangerous, too revolutionary, or too incomprehensible for the world of their time. This delicate interplay between preservation and loss invites us to wonder not only about what existed, but about why it has disappeared and what gaps in our understanding still remain. The imagination drifts gently through these questions, filling the spaces between certainty and speculation with a quiet sense of curiosity. As we linger in this space between the visible and the hidden, the mind begins to perceive patterns in the seemingly scattered fragments of history. The meticulous precision of a Greek automaton may echo the careful alignment of a Mayan observatory. The movement of water through Roman aqueducts might reflect principles understood independently in distant lands. These parallels, quiet and subtle, hint at universal principles that guided human thought, principles that transcend geography, culture, and era. By contemplating these patterns, we begin to sense an underlying logic, a rhythm of curiosity and experimentation that unites humanity across time. In these reflections, we are also reminded of the human element behind every invention. The laborers, artisans, and thinkers who crafted these devices were driven by the same impulses that continue to guide us today, a desire to understand, to explore, and to create. Their work was both practical and inspired, informed by observation, yet propelled by imagination. In considering their lives, we perceive a gentle continuum of human thought, a quiet lineage of intellect and curiosity stretching from the past into our present. There is something profoundly meditative in acknowledging this continuity, a sense that we are participants in a larger story that spans centuries, bound together by the subtle pulse of ingenuity. This bridge between past and present invites a slowing of thought, a gentle drift into contemplation. We are encouraged to consider not only the mechanisms themselves, but the intentions behind them, the philosophies that guided their creation, and the echoes they leave in our modern world. By reflecting on these connections, we prepare ourselves for the deeper mysteries to come, technologies that were hidden, knowledge that was forgotten, and innovations that may have been deliberately concealed from history. The mind is calmed by the rhythm of these contemplations, lulled by the gentle unfolding of patterns, and invited to move softly between curiosity and reflection. As the mind lingers on these images, a sense of quiet awe begins to emerge. There is a beauty in the way human curiosity manifests, whether in the grand structures of a civilization or the subtle movements of a machine. The continuity of ingenuity, the persistence of thought, and the silent whisper of forgotten knowledge all converge to create a contemplative space in which wonder and reflection coexist. In this meditative state, the transition to deeper explorations of lost and hidden technologies feels seamless, natural, and comforting, preparing the listener to drift with curiosity into the mysteries that lie ahead. Through this gentle meditation, we arrive at a realization. Knowledge is not merely a collection of facts or inventions. It is a living thread, fragile yet enduring, stretching across generations, inviting us to follow it quietly into the unknown. The technologies of the past, whether preserved or lost, monumental or minute, all share this thread, and by tracing it, we begin to feel the soft pulse of human curiosity, a rhythm that carries us forward through history and into the mysteries yet to be revealed. As we lift our gaze toward the heavens, the silent expanse of the night sky stretches before us, filled with stars whose light has traveled centuries to reach our eyes. Ancient civilizations looked upward in wonder and necessity, tracing patterns among the constellations and seeking to understand the rhythms of the cosmos. Their observations were more than curiosity. They were instruments of survival, timekeeping, and spiritual alignment. The stars guided planting and harvesting, dictated rituals, and measured the passage of years. And yet, in these early acts of observation, there is a subtle elegance, a poetic grace that elevates practical knowledge into the realm of the profound. These early astronomers were not merely counting stars. They were listening to the heartbeat of the universe, learning its rhythm and translating it into human experience. Across the deserts of Egypt, the pyramids of Giza align with celestial points, their angles and positions reflecting the movement of stars and the rising sun. This alignment is no accident. The ancients recognized patterns that modern observers might take for granted, but which required careful measurement, deep observation, and precise calculation. Each stone seems to echo a silent understanding of cosmic order, an intention to embed knowledge within the very foundations of their structures. Similarly, in the jungles of Central America, the Mayan observatories were constructed with painstaking attention to the solstices and equinoxes. Circular platforms, tall pillars, and shadow-casting structures created a natural calendar, allowing priests and scholars to predict celestial events with remarkable accuracy. These designs demonstrate an intricate awareness of geometry, time, and movement that suggests knowledge both empirical and symbolic. Yet, it is not only the alignment of stones and platforms that speaks to the ingenuity of ancient astronomers. In Greece, the Antikythera mechanism, with its interlocking gears, once predicted eclipses and charted planetary positions. This small, intricate device encapsulates an astonishing comprehension of mathematics and the cosmos, revealing that some civilizations possessed an ability to translate celestial observation into mechanical calculation. Similar devices may have existed elsewhere, but if they did, they have largely vanished from the historical record. The Antikythera mechanism stands as both a marvel and a mystery, a reminder that ancient civilizations may have understood more about the heavens than we sometimes assume, and that their wisdom, like the stars, flickers faintly across the millennia. In the deserts of Arabia, the early observatories were not merely practical, they were sacred. The positions of the stars informed rituals and religious ceremonies, embedding human life within a larger rhythm of the cosmos. Observatories became temples, and measurement became devotion. In these spaces, the act of observing was itself a meditation, a way to harmonize human life with universal order. The ancients understood that time and space were intertwined, and that knowledge of the heavens was a kind of poetry, translating the infinite into patterns humans could perceive, remember, and act upon. This merging of science, art, and spirituality is a recurring theme in the story of ancient technology, one that encourages quiet reflection and a gentle sense of wonder. As we drift through these celestial observations, the mind begins to notice subtle, hidden complexities. Some structures reveal alignments not with the sun or moon, but with specific stars or clusters, events that occur only once in centuries. The planning required for such precision suggests that knowledge was transmitted across generations, carefully measured, recorded, and applied. Whether through oral tradition, carved inscriptions, or simple trial and error, ancient astronomers developed systems of understanding that rival modern methods in elegance and accuracy. And yet, so much of this knowledge has been lost, obscured by time, conquest, and cultural transformation. The silence of lost manuscripts and vanished instruments hangs over our contemplation, a gentle reminder that what we know is only a fraction of what was once understood. In China, the construction of observatories and star charts provides another layer of insight into the sophistication of ancient astronomical knowledge. Scholars mapped celestial movements meticulously, creating devices such as armillary spheres to track the positions of planets and stars. Their work demonstrates not only technical skill, but a philosophical understanding of the universe, a recognition that the heavens are both predictable and mysterious. The care and dedication devoted to these observations reflect a culture that honored both the practical and the poetic, valuing accuracy while embracing the wonder inherent in the vast, unknowable expanse above. In this blending of precision and imagination, the ancients offer us a model for seeing the world with both clarity and reverence. Megalithic structures in Europe also provide evidence of advanced astronomical observation. Sites like Stonehenge and Newgrange align with solstices and equinoxes, capturing the light of the sun in narrow corridors or across standing stones at particular times of year. These alignments suggest a deep knowledge of celestial cycles and an awareness of how architecture could interact with natural light to mark the passage of time. The precision required for these alignments implies sophisticated planning, a conceptual understanding of the Earth's movement in relation to the heavens, and an ability to translate this knowledge into permanent, monumental form. Each stone, each axis, is both functional and symbolic, a testament to the quiet brilliance of those who came long before us. Amid these tangible achievements, there is an underlying tension between what we can observe and what remains elusive. Ancient astronomers left behind their instruments and inscriptions, yet we may never fully reconstruct the extent of their understanding. What calculations were lost when a civilization fell? What secrets vanished when instruments were dismantled or destroyed? The mind is gently invited to ponder these absences, to imagine the potential knowledge that has slipped silently from history. These gaps are not failures. They are invitations to wonder, spaces where the imagination can drift freely, exploring possibilities that the physical world cannot fully reveal. This tension between the known and the unknown is mirrored in the rhythm of the night sky itself. Stars appear fixed and eternal, yet we understand that they move and evolve over millennia, burning brightly even as their light travels across vast distances. Ancient astronomers perceived this delicate balance, recording movements with care, acknowledging patterns while leaving space for mystery. Their observations remind us that knowledge and curiosity are intertwined, that even a most precise measurement cannot capture the full majesty of the cosmos. It is in this tension that wonder resides, a quiet invitation to explore, imagine, and reflect. As we drift deeper into this contemplation, it becomes clear that ancient astronomy was more than a science. It was a meditation, a rhythm that connected human life with the eternal cycles of the heavens. By tracing the paths of planets, aligning stones with stars, and crafting instruments to measure celestial events, early civilizations created a language of the cosmos, a system in which the universe could be read, appreciated, and understood, at least in part. These practices reveal a sophistication and subtlety that we continue to marvel at today, a testament to the enduring brilliance of human curiosity and observation. In the quiet reflection of these discoveries, we feel the pulse of centuries, a gentle continuity of thought that stretches across continents and eras. From Egypt to China, from Europe to Central America, the ancients looked up and sought patterns, sought meaning, and sought understanding. Their achievements whisper across time, inviting us to slow our thoughts, to breathe in the vastness of history and the cosmos, and to imagine the hidden technologies that enabled such precise observation. In this meditative state, curiosity and contemplation intertwine, guiding us softly into the mysteries yet to be explored, the inventions yet to be revealed, and the knowledge that humanity once possessed, then lost, then whispered across the ages. As we descend from the quiet majesty of the stars, our attention returns to the earth, to the tangible forces that have shaped human life for millennia. The flow of water, the movement of air, the energy contained in fire and stone. These are the building blocks upon which ancient civilizations constructed not only their homes and temples, but also their understanding of the natural world. Long before the Industrial Revolution, before electricity illuminated cities and machines hummed with unseen power, humans discovered ways to harness natural forces with remarkable precision. In the gentle unfolding of these discoveries, we see a rhythm of ingenuity, a quiet conversation between observation, experimentation, and imagination that has persisted across generations, leaving faint but enduring traces for those who choose to notice. Water, in particular, was a medium of both life and innovation. The aqueducts of Rome are familiar examples. Long, graceful arcs that channel water across valleys, over rivers, and through entire cities with an accuracy that still astonishes modern engineers. The gentle slope of each conduit, calculated to fractions of an inch over miles of terrain, demonstrates a mastery of hydraulics that seems almost magical. Yet beyond their practical utility, these systems reveal a philosophical understanding. Water as a living, moving force, its flow harnessed not through brute strength, but through observation, patience, and precise measurement. Every arch, every channel, every conduit embodies a rhythm, a quiet poetry in stone and water that speaks of a deep connection to the natural world. In the distant mountains of South America, pre-Columbian civilizations crafted their own ingenious solutions. Terraces built into the slopes of hills not only prevented erosion and captured rainfall for crops, but also channeled water with careful calculation, demonstrating an awareness of hydraulics and land management that mirrors, in many ways, the systems of Rome. Ingenious bridges and aqueducts allowed water to flow where it was needed most, sustaining entire communities in regions that might otherwise have been inhospitable. These practical marvels speak of observation honed into understanding, and understanding transformed into subtle engineering. In their quiet elegance, they reveal that humanity has long been capable of harmonizing with natural forces rather than resisting them. Yet water was not the only force the ancients learned to harness. Across Asia, early engineers experimented with energy in other forms, exploring wind, fire, and even rudimentary mechanical principles. Windmills in Persia transformed gusts of air into a steady motion, grinding grain for local communities. Fire-powered furnaces allowed metallurgists to achieve temperatures that transformed raw ore into tools, weapons, and objects of beauty. Even rudimentary gears and levers were employed to multiply human effort, allowing tasks that would have required many hands to be accomplished with elegant efficiency. In each case, the rhythm of nature, the wind, the flow of water, the expansion of heated metal was observed, understood, and shaped into purposeful action. It is remarkable to consider that such systems were conceived and maintained without the frameworks of modern science. The engineers of antiquity relied on careful observation, empirical experimentation, and the repetition of small successes over time. They understood forces intuitively, sensing how water flows, how air moves, how pressure changes with weight, and how energy can be transmitted and transformed. Their tools were simple, yet their results were extraordinary. Entire cities sustained by flowing water, complex workshops powered by natural forces, and devices that automated labor in ways that seem almost miraculous to modern eyes. There is a quiet brilliance in this subtle mastery, a demonstration that ingenuity is not always a function of technology, but of careful attention, imagination, and patience. Some of these inventions were practical, while others hint at knowledge that was deliberately concealed or allowed to vanish. In ancient texts, there are references to hydraulic devices used for entertainment, automata powered by flowing water, and even mechanisms that could produce light, sound, or motion in ways that seem almost magical. The surviving descriptions tantalize the imagination, leaving us to wonder how much knowledge has been lost, hidden by time, conquest, or secrecy. Were these devices considered sacred, dangerous, or simply too complex to be widely shared? The absence of surviving examples creates a space for quiet speculation, a gentle invitation for the mind to wander between curiosity and meditation. The tension between what is known and what remains hidden is mirrored in the artifacts themselves. Roman water mills, Persian wind-driven mechanisms, and early furnaces all survived because they were practical, essential, and visible. Yet the most delicate automata, experimental instruments, and mechanical curiosities vanished, their blueprints erased, their secrets locked away. In considering these gaps, we are invited to imagine the workshops where hands crafted intricate mechanisms, where minds plotted motion and force with the precision of a composer arranging notes. Each missing piece of knowledge is a shadow, a whisper of ingenuity that encourages quiet reflection and gentle wonder. The philosophical dimension of these ancient energy systems is also striking. To harness water, wind, or heat was not merely to achieve practical ends. It was to understand the world and its rhythms and cycles. Observing the rise and fall of rivers, the pressure of flowing water, or the power of wind and motion required patience, attention, and a humility before forces greater than oneself. There is a meditative quality to this work, a rhythm that aligns human effort with natural processes rather than imposing domination. In contemplating these inventions, we are invited to experience a similar harmony, to slow our thoughts and recognize the subtle elegance that arises when observation, intention, and creation are intertwined. Some scholars suggest that these technologies may have been even more advanced than the surviving evidence implies. Ancient texts and fragmented descriptions hint at mechanisms capable of automating repetitive labor, generating energy in ways that are difficult to reconstruct, and combining multiple forces to produce continuous motion. While the specifics may elude us, the patterns suggest a level of sophistication that surpasses casual assumption. These lost innovations remind us that history is not linear, and that knowledge may rise, flourish, and disappear in cycles, leaving only fragments for those willing to perceive them. In this quiet contemplation, we also notice a subtle contrast between visibility and concealment, between public utility and secret knowledge. Aqueducts and mills were functional, serving entire communities and enduring in plain sight. Automata, experimental mechanisms, and devices of unusual complexity often vanished, surviving only in fragments or textual hints. This duality invites reflection on what civilizations chose to preserve and what they allowed to fade. It is a meditation on impermanence, on the fragility of human achievement, and on the quiet persistence of curiosity and ingenuity despite the passage of time. As we drift among these ancient systems, observing their harmony with natural forces, a sense of wonder emerges. The ancients, without modern science or machinery, discovered ways to harness the energy around them, to transform it into work, art, and understanding. They observed the rhythms of water, wind, and fire, and translated those observations into mechanisms that serve both practical and, at times, philosophical purposes. In these inventions, we sense both the power and the humility of human creativity, a capacity to shape the world, yet an awareness of its inherent complexity and mystery. In the soft reflection of these systems, we find a gentle lesson that carries forward into contemplation. Knowledge is both fragile and enduring, visible and hidden, practical and poetic. The engineers, artisans, and inventors of the past left behind traces that allow us to perceive their thought, to imagine their methods, and to appreciate the elegance of their solutions. Even in absence, their work whispers across time, inviting curiosity, reflection, and gentle wonder. It is in this quiet space that we prepare to move deeper into the mysteries of hidden knowledge, enigmatic artifacts, and the technologies that humanity was never supposed to remember. As we continue to drift through the echoes of ancient ingenuity, our attention turns to the subtle traces of knowledge left behind not in stone or metal, but in symbols, inscriptions, and carvings. These are the whispers of civilizations, a quiet language that bridges time and space, hinting at discoveries and ideas that may never fully reveal themselves. Across temples, tombs, and monuments, intricate patterns and enigmatic scripts speak of a world in which knowledge was encoded, preserved, and sometimes hidden, leaving us with tantalizing fragments that invite both curiosity and reflection. Each mark is deliberate, each line or symbol carefully placed, suggesting intention, understanding, and a desire to communicate beyond the boundaries of the present. In Egypt, hieroglyphs adorn walls with a precision and elegance that is almost meditative. Beyond their immediate function as language, many hieroglyphs are embedded with layers of meaning, representing not only words but ideas, numbers, and observations of the natural and celestial world. Some carvings depict mechanisms or abstract diagrams that scholars have struggled to interpret for centuries, hinting at technologies, rituals, or philosophies that are partially veiled. These inscriptions are not merely decorative. They are repositories of information, coded in ways that require not only literacy, but a deep understanding of the culture, the cosmos, and the subtle logic of the ancients. Similar phenomena appear across the world. In Mesopotamia, cuneiform tablets record observations of the heavens, mathematical calculations, and descriptions of tools and mechanisms. These clay tablets, though fragile, carry immense complexity, preserving knowledge that may have been shared only with a select few. The act of recording itself suggests both a practical and philosophical purpose. Knowledge was not merely to be used, but preserved, interpreted, and in some cases deliberately obscured. It is this duality, information both revealed and hidden, that imbues these artifacts with a quiet, hypnotic power, drawing the mind gently into contemplation and imagination. In Mesoamerica, carved stele and codices provide another layer of intrigue. Symbols and pictograms encode astronomical data, calendrical systems, and mythological narratives intertwined with practical observation. The precision of these carvings, combined with their symbolic layering, implies a sophisticated understanding of the world, one in which observation, ritual, and knowledge coexist seamlessly. The subtlety of the design encourages a reflective approach, a slowing of thought that allows the observer to perceive both the immediate meaning and the deeper resonance embedded within. In this, we glimpse the rhythm of ancient thought, careful, deliberate, and intertwined with both natural and cosmic cycles. Yet, while these inscriptions preserve fragments of understanding, they also remind us of what has been lost. Many symbols and scripts remain undeciphered, their meaning obscured by the passage of time, shifts in language, or deliberate secrecy. Some may have been designed to be interpreted only by initiates, while others simply slipped into obscurity as civilizations fell and cultural continuity was broken. These absences, rather than frustrating, create a gentle tension between curiosity and reflection, inviting the mind to linger, to explore possibilities, and to imagine the knowledge that once existed. The spaces between what is known and unknown become meditative landscapes, soft valleys of mystery where the imagination can wander freely. The very act of carving or inscribing is itself a demonstration of intent, a rhythm of labor and thought intertwined. Each line requires deliberation, each symbol precision, suggesting that these were not casual marks, but carefully considered communications. Some inscriptions depict mechanical devices, astronomical calculations, or geometric patterns, hinting at knowledge that may have been deliberately encoded to ensure that only those with sufficient understanding could interpret it. In this way, inscriptions serve as both tools and guardians of knowledge, a dual purpose that reflects the sophistication and subtlety of ancient minds. As we move across continents and eras, we notice a common thread. Civilizations everywhere seem to have understood that knowledge could be fragile, and that encoding it in symbolic, visual, or ritual form could both preserve and protect it. The Mayans, Egyptians, Sumerians, and others employed systems of record-keeping that were not always transparent, yet remarkably resilient. The challenge of interpretation for modern observers is not simply due to the complexity of these systems, but also their intentional subtlety. A gentle reminder that some knowledge was meant to endure quietly, revealed only to those who approached with patience, reverence, and curiosity. In contemplating these inscriptions, we begin to appreciate the delicate balance between utility and mystery. Some symbols clearly convey practical information, such as measurements, calculations, or astronomical events. Others appear more enigmatic, blending mythology, philosophy, and coded instruction. The coexistence of clarity and ambiguity reflects a sophisticated understanding of cognition and memory. Information was preserved in a way that engaged both logic and imagination, inviting interpretation while protecting its deeper meaning. It is this interplay that creates a hypnotic rhythm, lulling the mind into a gentle state of wonder, reflection, and quiet curiosity. Even the placement of inscriptions conveys intention. Hieroglyphs on temple walls are often aligned with specific architectural features, points of light, or the movement of celestial bodies. Mayan stele correspond to solstices, eclipses, or seasonal changes. The context of these carvings enhances their meaning, embedding knowledge within the environment itself, ensuring that understanding arises not just from the symbols, but from their relationship to space, light, and natural cycles. This approach demonstrates a holistic view of knowledge, in which observation, environment, and representation are inseparable, creating an experience that is both intellectual and contemplative. In the quiet study of these inscriptions, a meditative state emerges. We are invited to slow our minds, to linger on each symbol, to imagine the hands that carve them and the minds that conceive them. Each mark becomes a conduit to the past, a gentle connection to the thought processes, curiosity, and creativity of those who lived centuries or millennia ago. Even when full understanding eludes us, the act of reflection provides a subtle satisfaction, a soft hum of connection that bridges time and space, creating a space in which curiosity and imagination coexist peacefully. The study of these symbols also encourages contemplation of the human desire to remember, to transmit knowledge, and to preserve insight across generations. Inscriptions are more than mere communication. They are expressions of continuity, intention, and reverence for the mysteries of the world. They remind us that the pursuit of understanding is timeless. The human curiosity has always sought patterns, meaning, and connection, whether through stone, clay, or glyph. In this gentle rhythm of creation and preservation, we perceive the enduring pulse of ingenuity, curiosity, and reflection that links us to our ancestors. As we drift through the patterns of these inscriptions, a sense of quiet awe arises. The precision, subtlety, and symbolic layering speak of minds that were patient, observant, and imaginative. We glimpse the care with which knowledge was curated, encoded, and shared, a process that is both practical and profoundly poetic. In reflecting on these carvings and scripts, we are invited to enter a meditative state, following the traces of thought across centuries, moving gently from curiosity to wonder, and preparing our minds for the deeper mysteries and hidden technologies that await in the chapters to come. As we move deeper into the quiet corridors of history, there emerges a subtle pattern that intertwines ingenuity with secrecy. Across civilizations, knowledge was often not merely created, it was guarded, hidden, or deliberately encoded. The mechanisms, inscriptions, and devices we have explored thus far may only hint at the broader spectrum of understanding that was once in the hands of select individuals or groups. Secret knowledge is not simply a curiosity of the past. It is a deliberate shaping of what is remembered and what is allowed to fade. In contemplating these deliberate omissions, the mind drifts into the gentle tension between revelation and concealment, a rhythm that has fascinated humanity for millennia. Throughout history, there have been societies and guilds whose purpose was to preserve and protect wisdom. From the scribes of Egypt, who carefully recorded sacred and practical knowledge on papyrus, to the esoteric schools of Greece and Alexandria, and to the secretive workshops of alchemists in the Middle East and Europe, certain knowledge was considered too valuable, too powerful, or too sacred for general access. In many cases, the transmission of technology and understanding was tightly controlled, often passed only to apprentices or initiates who demonstrated both skill and discretion. These boundaries created a layered world of knowledge, one visible to the public and one hidden in shadow, accessible only to those deemed worthy of comprehension. The motivations for secrecy were manifold. Some innovations were practical, offering power or advantage in trade, warfare, or agriculture. Others were philosophical or spiritual, considered sacred and intertwined with ritual, cosmology, or moral responsibility. There was also a protective element. Knowledge could be dangerous if misused, misunderstood, or revealed prematurely. These considerations created a delicate balance between preservation and concealment, ensuring that some technologies endured while others vanished quietly into history. The mind, reflecting on this, perceives a rhythm of human intention, a quiet, almost meditative awareness of the fragility and potential of knowledge itself. Among the most fascinating examples of concealed knowledge are the mechanical and astronomical devices we have already glimpsed. The Antikythera mechanism, though discovered by chance centuries later, may have been one of many kept secret by those who understood its intricacies. Similarly, intricate automata described in ancient texts, water-driven mechanisms, and energy systems may have been deliberately restricted, shared only within select workshops or temples. The knowledge of their operation, construction, and purpose was a kind of currency, as precious as gold or grain. It is this selective retention that gives these devices their aura of mystery, inviting the imagination to consider what other technologies may have existed and quietly disappeared. Secretive transmission of knowledge also finds expression in symbolic encoding, in inscriptions, diagrams, and ritual practices that are difficult to interpret without initiation. The hieroglyphs of Egypt, the cuneiform tablets of Mesopotamia, the cryptic diagrams in alchemical texts, all demonstrate an understanding that knowledge must sometimes be protected by obscurity. These encoded forms of information create a space in which curiosity and reflection intertwine, inviting the observer to ponder, interpret, and imagine. The very act of deciphering is itself a meditation, a gentle engagement with history that bridges the gap between past and present, known and unknown. Philosophical and mystical traditions often intersected with technological knowledge, creating layers of meaning that were practical, symbolic, and spiritual simultaneously. In the schools of Pythagoras, numbers were not simply abstract tools. They were considered keys to understanding the universe. In alchemical workshops, chemical reactions were encoded in allegorical texts, blending observation with metaphor, experimentation with morality. In these spaces, knowledge was never purely utilitarian. It was intertwined with reflection, intuition, and philosophical insight. This blending of the practical and the abstract is one reason that many ancient technologies feel both extraordinary and elusive to us today. They were designed to operate in a context that was simultaneously material, intellectual, and spiritual. There's also a profound rhythm in the way secrecy was maintained over generations. Knowledge often moved slowly, passed from teacher to student, master to apprentice, with care and precision. The time it took to learn and understand ensured that wisdom was deeply internalized before being applied. This gradual process of transmission is echoed in the durability of certain ancient technologies. The precision of a Roman aqueduct, the mechanical sophistication of a Greek automaton, or the astronomical accuracy of Mayan observatories could not have been achieved without prolonged observation, reflection, and disciplined practice. Each preserved fragment of knowledge is a testament to patience, dedication, and a quiet respect for the forces being harnessed. Yet, as much as secrecy preserved knowledge, it also contributed to its disappearance. Societies fall, records are lost, and technologies fade from memory when the delicate chains of transmission are broken. Wars, natural disasters, and social upheaval can disrupt even the most carefully guarded systems. The result is a tantalizing puzzle. Glimpses of brilliance in the surviving artifacts and texts, intertwined with yawning gaps where the full scope of understanding remains forever out of reach. These absences are not merely losses. They are invitations, gentle voids that stimulate reflection, curiosity, and imagination. In the quiet contemplation of what has vanished, we find a meditative rhythm that guides the mind through wonder rather than anxiety, allowing us to drift gently through history's mysteries. In considering these hidden technologies, we also perceive a subtle relationship between knowledge and power. Control over understanding confers influence, whether in governance, commerce, or ritual authority. Secret knowledge could determine social hierarchy, reinforce religious belief, or enable technological dominance. Yet this power was not always absolute. The fragility of human memory, the impermanence of materials, and the unpredictable forces of nature meant that even the most carefully guarded wisdom could vanish. The dance between concealment and survival, between intention and decay, adds a layer of depth and subtle tension to the story of ancient innovation. This interplay of secrecy and revelation encourages a contemplative approach. The mind is invited to linger on what is visible and what is hidden, to follow the patterns of ingenuity and speculation, and to perceive the quiet intelligence embedded in both action and omission. Secret societies, encoded inscriptions, and deliberately obscured technologies form a continuum of thought, a rhythm in which curiosity is balanced by restraint and imagination is guided by reverence. In dwelling on these layers, we are drawn into a meditative state that blends reflection with wonder, creating a space in which the mysteries of the past feel alive, tangible, and quietly mesmerizing. The legacy of these hidden technologies continues to influence modern thought and discovery. The fragments that remain, the devices, inscriptions, manuscripts, and architectural marvels, serve as guides, prompting reconstruction, experimentation, and imaginative interpretation. Scholars, engineers, and historians today approach these remnants with both caution and awe, aware that even a small insight can illuminate entire systems of thought that were once thought lost. The quiet persistence of hidden knowledge reminds us that understanding is rarely instantaneous. It is a process of gradual revelation, observation, and contemplation, unfolding gently across time. In the meditative silence of these reflections, a profound sense of connection emerges. We are linked not only to the minds of inventors, architects, and scholars of the past, but also to the rhythms of secrecy, intention, and discovery that guided their actions. Knowledge was created, preserved, encoded, and sometimes lost, yet its traces continue to shape our understanding and imagination. In this gentle contemplation, curiosity flows freely, carrying us through the intricate dance of human ingenuity, reminding us that some of the most extraordinary technologies were never meant to be remembered by everyone, but left just enough traces to guide the thoughtful, patient, and attentive observer. As we journey further into the quiet corridors of history, the faint outlines of lost inventions begin to emerge, like whispers from a world that existed just beyond our perception. These are not merely tools or machines. They are the manifestations of human curiosity, ingenuity, and imagination. Innovations that, for reasons often lost to time, did not survive in the collective memory. What remains are fragments, references in ancient texts, enigmatic illustrations, and the occasional recovered artifact, each tantalizing hint inviting us to imagine the full scope of knowledge that once thrived. In contemplating these lost technologies, we feel the gentle tension between what was achieved and what has vanished, a rhythm of wonder that draws the mind softly into reflection. Consider, for a moment, the sophisticated metallurgical techniques hinted at in the ancient world. Civilizations from the Indus Valley to sub-Saharan Africa produced alloys and metals that, in some cases, exceeded the quality of tools available until the industrial age. Weapons, jewelry, and ceremonial objects demonstrate not only skill, but a deep understanding of chemistry and material properties. Yet many of the processes used to create these materials have been lost. Manuscripts describing them may have been destroyed, oral traditions disrupted, or techniques kept secret within specific guilds or families. This loss reminds us that technology is fragile, dependent not only on invention, but also on transmission, documentation, and cultural continuity. Across Europe and Asia, there are records of automata and self-operating machines that predate modern mechanical engineering by centuries. Ancient Greek engineers, for example, devised devices powered by water, air, and counterweights, capable of performing tasks that seem almost magical to the modern observer. Some could pour wine, ring bells, or move figurines in lifelike motion. While descriptions survive in texts, physical examples are extraordinarily rare. The fleeting existence of these machines creates a haunting beauty. They remind us of the creativity of the past, while their absence emphasizes the fragility of human achievement, lost not through incompetence, but often through circumstance, decay, and time itself. Even more mysterious are the inventions suggested by fragmentary texts or cryptic references. In Chinese records, there are mentions of devices capable of signaling distant locations through mechanical means, perhaps early forms of communication technology. In Mesoamerican codices, some glyphs hint at instruments that measured celestial motion with remarkable precision, far beyond the expected capabilities of their era. These glimpses suggest that the boundaries of ancient ingenuity were more expansive than commonly acknowledged. The mind is invited to drift across centuries, to imagine workshops filled with the quiet hum of experimentation, where artisans and thinkers explored principles of motion, measurement, and energy with dedication and patience. Hydraulic systems provide another example of lost brilliance. The engineers of ancient Rome, Egypt, and Persia mastered the flow of water to drive mills, fountains, and even mechanical theaters. In some cases, these mechanisms were described in texts but never physically recovered. What might these devices have looked like in operation? How much energy could they have produced? And to what purposes might it have been applied? Such questions linger in the mind, unresolved yet compelling, creating a meditative space in which curiosity and imagination intertwine. The absence of these devices does not diminish their presence in our contemplation. Rather, it amplifies the sense of mystery, allowing us to dwell in the tension between known achievement and vanished possibility. The concept of lost tools and mechanisms extends to the realm of astronomy and timekeeping. Celestial devices, akin to the Antikythera mechanism, may have been far more common than the single surviving example suggests. Early astronomers and engineers likely produced multiple instruments to track planetary motion predict eclipses, and observe the skies with astonishing accuracy. Yet most of these devices have vanished, whether destroyed by the natural decay of materials, the fall of civilizations, or deliberate concealment. Each missing piece creates a silence that echoes through history, a quiet invitation to reconstruct, imagine, and reflect on the ingenuity that might once have flourished across the ancient world. Even the simplest objects hint at hidden complexity. Tools, measuring instruments, and small mechanical devices may have incorporated principles of physics and engineering that are not immediately obvious. A well-balanced lever, a carefully angled chisel, or a finely calibrated water clock embodies understanding, experimentation, and intuition. Each object reflects not only practical function, but an implicit knowledge of forces, materials, and motion. When such tools are lost, the subtle genius of their design is lost as well, leaving gaps that historians and archaeologists strive to fill with careful deduction, imagination, and replication. Art and ritual often intertwine with technology in ways that make lost inventions even more enigmatic. Religious structures, ceremonial devices, and symbolic automata may have served both spiritual and practical purposes, blending observation, mathematics, and creativity. A temple that aligned perfectly with the rising sun on a solstice, or a ritual mechanism that moved in precise sequences, demonstrates both aesthetic sophistication and technical mastery. In some cases, these inventions are described in texts, but no longer exist physically, leaving us to reconstruct their operation in the mind's eye. This act of imagination becomes a quiet meditation, a soft contemplation of ingenuity and beauty that existed long before modern recording methods could preserve it. The disappearance of these technologies often evokes a profound sense of melancholy, a reflection on the impermanence of human endeavor. We are reminded that knowledge is fragile, dependent not only on discovery, but on preservation and transmission. Civilizations may fall, manuscripts may burn, and objects may decay, yet the traces that remain, sketches, descriptions, fragments, allow us to reconstruct, however partially, the intelligence and creativity of the past. The act of reconstruction is itself contemplative, inviting us to slow our thoughts, consider possibility, and marvel at the elegance of human problem-solving across time. What is perhaps most compelling is the rhythm of curiosity and loss that runs through these histories. For every mechanism described in a text, there may have been 10 more that vanished without a trace. For every surviving artifact, countless others have crumbled, been melted, or dissolved into obscurity. The mind, engaging with these absences, begins to feel a gentle sense of participation in discovery, tracing patterns, imagining operation, and considering the broader implications of lost ingenuity. It is a quiet, meditative process, blending reflection with curiosity, speculation with awe. Through this contemplation, we also perceive a subtle message about the relationship between humanity and technology. Ancient inventions, though lost, demonstrate an enduring principle. That knowledge is a living rhythm, fragile yet persistent, practical yet poetic. The curiosity that drove the construction of automata, celestial calculators, and hydraulic systems continues to pulse through us, connecting past and present in a delicate continuity. Even when the physical manifestations vanish, the principles, intuition, and creative impulse endure, inviting us to explore, imagine, and perhaps even recreate. In this space of reflection, lost technologies become more than historical curiosities. They are meditative bridges to the minds of those who came before. Each fragment, description, or artifact serves as a portal, allowing us to inhabit the thought processes, curiosity, and ingenuity of past civilizations. We sense the quiet rhythm of experimentation, the patient observation of natural forces, and the careful orchestration of human skill to achieve extraordinary results. These are not simply tools. They are expressions of human wonder, a language of creation that transcends time. As we linger on these imagined inventions, a gentle understanding emerges. The story of technology is not linear, nor is it complete. Knowledge rises, flourishes, and sometimes vanishes, leaving traces that are at once tantalizing and instructive. The gaps in the historical record, far from frustrating, create spaces for reflection, curiosity, and meditation. Lost inventions remind us that ingenuity is an enduring rhythm, a pulse of observation and creativity that transcends centuries, connecting us to the silent hum of human thought across time. In contemplating these vanished technologies, the mind is invited into stillness, a quiet drift across centuries of human endeavor. We imagine workshops filled with motion, instruments tuned with care, and minds devoted to understanding both the natural and mechanical worlds. Even without physical evidence, the principles of creativity, observation, and ingenuity resonate, leaving a lasting impression of the silent, persistent heartbeat of human curiosity. In this meditative space, we are not mere observers. We are participants in the continuum of innovation, tracing patterns of thought, experimentation, and imagination that stretch across the ages. As we continue our journey through the quiet, intricate corridors of ancient ingenuity, we encounter a landscape filled with experiments and devices that hint at a knowledge both profound and enigmatic. These are not always practical machines or tools. They're often prototypes, observations, and methods designed to probe the natural world, to test its limits, and to engage with forces that were not yet fully understood. Across civilizations, we find evidence of experimentation that borders on the mystical, blending observation with intuition, practical function with philosophical inquiry. In these ancient laboratories, be they workshops, temples, or hidden chambers, human curiosity operated in delicate rhythms, seeking understanding while leaving much to the imagination. In Egypt, we find descriptions of devices that measured, calculated, and even predicted phenomena, some surviving only as inscriptions or fragmented papyri. Temple architects and astronomers experimented with light and shadow, aligning walls, corridors, and openings to track solar movements and equinoxes. Their experiments were both practical and symbolic, creating structures that acted as calendars, sundials, and astronomical observatories simultaneously. The precision of their work, achieved without modern instruments, suggests an intuitive grasp of physics and geometry, a hands-on experimentation that melded empirical observation with meditative reflection. These ancient practices reveal a rhythm of inquiry, where curiosity is nurtured through careful measurement, repetition, and reflection, producing knowledge that transcends mere utility. In ancient Greece, the culture of experimentation took on both philosophical and mechanical dimensions. Thinkers such as Archimedes explored principles of leverage, buoyancy, and mechanical advantage, devising devices that could lift immense weights, measure fluid displacement, or demonstrate fundamental physical laws. Archimedes' work, often recorded in treatises but rarely preserved as physical artifacts, demonstrates the dual nature of these ancient experiments. They were demonstrations of principle, but also explorations of natural forces in ways that encouraged reflection and imagination. Even a single observation, a sphere balanced on a water jet, or a pulley system calibrated to perfection, represents both a technological and a philosophical insight, a rhythm of thought bridging observation and understanding. In the East, Chinese scholars engaged in proto-scientific practices that combined observation, experimentation, and the recording of results over centuries. Early alchemists experimented with metals, minerals, and chemical reactions, while astronomers created devices to track planetary motion, eclipses, and the cycles of the moon. These practices were systematic, careful, and iterative, revealing a sophisticated understanding of experimentation that emphasized both accuracy and patience. What is particularly striking is the holistic approach. Knowledge was never purely theoretical or practical, but a continuous dialogue between observation, reflection, and application. Instruments, tests, and records were designed not only to serve immediate purposes, but to cultivate understanding over generations. Hydraulic and pneumatic experiments also demonstrate this meditative interplay of curiosity and observation. Ancient engineers in Greece, China, and the Islamic world explored the properties of flowing water, air pressure, and mechanical motion. They created devices that could lift water, drive mechanisms, or produce motion in automata. Some experiments were simple demonstrations of principle. Others were highly sophisticated attempts to automate labor or replicate natural processes. Even when such devices were lost to history, the underlying principles reveal a persistent, contemplative engagement with nature. The ancients were not only inventors, they were thinkers, observing the subtle rhythms of the world and testing them with care, patience, and imagination. Many of these ancient experiments were intertwined with ritual and philosophy. In some cases, observation of natural forces was inseparable from cosmology, ethics, or spiritual practice. Temples became laboratories, sacred spaces where experimentation, meditation, and philosophical inquiry coexisted. The movement of water, the casting of light, or the motion of mechanical devices was as much a demonstration of principle as it was a symbolic reflection of universal order. By blending empirical investigation with contemplation, these civilizations cultivated a rhythm of curiosity that balanced knowledge, reflection, and wonder, a rhythm that can still guide the mind into quiet meditation as we consider their legacy. The enigmatic nature of some devices and experiments invites quiet speculation. References in texts hint at mechanisms capable of producing sound, light, or motion in ways that seem almost magical. Automata, described in the writings of Hero of Alexandria, for example, could pour wine, open temple doors, or move figures using air pressure and water. While physical examples are scarce, the detailed descriptions suggest a deep understanding of cause and effect, fluid dynamics, and mechanical advantage. The scarcity of surviving examples adds to the hypnotic quality of these inventions. The mind drifts through possibility, imagining devices in motion, experiments unfolding, and principles revealed in subtle, poetic ways. In considering these ancient experiments, we notice a pattern of repetition and refinement. Observation was rarely a single act. It was iterative, cumulative, and generational. Devices were tested, adjusted, and sometimes deliberately hidden to protect knowledge or to preserve its integrity. The process itself becomes meditative when imagined. Hands manipulating levers, adjusting water flow, or calibrating celestial instruments, while the mind observes, measures, and contemplates. In this rhythm of experimentation, we sense not only the acquisition of knowledge, but the cultivation of patience, precision, and quiet curiosity. What is especially fascinating is the subtlety with which these experiments bridge the gap between practical utility and philosophical insight. A water clock was not merely a timekeeping device. It embodied an understanding of fluid dynamics, geometry, and the passage of time itself. An automaton was not simply entertainment. It revealed principles of mechanical motion, balance, and control. Observatories and celestial devices were not only tools for calculation. They provided insight into the order and rhythm of the cosmos. In each instance, experimentation was a gateway to reflection, a quiet dialogue between the material and the abstract, the observable and the invisible. The legacy of these ancient experiments resonates in their influence on later generations. Mechanical principles explored in antiquity reappeared in Renaissance engineering. Alchemical observations influenced early chemistry, and celestial measurements laid the groundwork for modern astronomy. Even when physical devices disappeared, the conceptual foundations endured, passing through texts, sketches, and oral traditions. The rhythm of experimentation, curiosity, observation, refinement, and reflection remains a subtle, enduring thread that connects ancient and modern inquiry, bridging centuries in a gentle, meditative continuity. In the contemplation of lost experiments and enigmatic devices, there's also a quiet recognition of impermanence. Knowledge is fragile, dependent on context, documentation, and culture. Civilizations rise and fall, texts are lost, and instruments decay, leaving us with tantalizing hints rather than complete understanding. Yet these hints are sufficient to inspire meditation, reflection, and imagination. The mind drifts through possibility, reconstructing mechanisms, visualizing experiments, and appreciating the ingenuity that, though partially lost, continues to resonate across time. Ultimately, the exploration of ancient experiments and enigmatic devices offers more than historical insight. It provides a meditative rhythm that invites reflection on human curiosity itself. We are reminded that inquiry is both fragile and enduring, practical and poetic, visible and mysterious. The ancients engaged with the world with patience, observation, and reverence, crafting experiments that simultaneously revealed and concealed knowledge. In this delicate balance, we find a quiet lesson for our own minds: to observe carefully, to contemplate gently, and to follow curiosity with patience, humility, and wonder. As we linger in the imagination of these lost and enigmatic devices, we feel a gentle connection to the continuity of human thought. Hands that built automata, instruments, and experimental mechanisms centuries ago seem to reach across time, inviting our minds to participate in their rhythm of observation and reflection. Even without direct contact with their physical creations, we sense the quiet pulse of ingenuity, the meditative cadence of experimentation, and the enduring human desire to understand, shape, and harmonize with the world. It is in this contemplative engagement that we experience both connection and awe, a soft meditation that prepares the mind to drift further into the hidden, mysterious technologies that humanity was never meant to remember. As we follow the quiet traces of ancient ingenuity, we begin to see how technology was often hidden within the very stones and structures that survive today. Temples, bridges, and fortifications were not just architectural feats, but subtle expressions of observation, calculation, and imagination. Massive stones aligned with precision, arches balanced perfectly, and walls echoed with unseen mathematical harmony. These works reveal an understanding of natural forces and mechanical principles that feels almost poetic in its silence. Bridges and aqueducts demonstrate this mastery clearly, built to endure centuries of weather and use through perfect balance, pressure control, and structural foresight. Temples and pyramids aligned with celestial events, merging ritual with scientific precision. In every element, light, sound, and motion, there was intention, transforming construction into a dialogue between earth and sky. Beneath these grand forms, hidden channels, levers, and siphons reveal that ancient engineers mastered both the visible and invisible mechanics of the world. Even sound was engineered with purpose. Amphitheaters and sacred spaces were designed for resonance and clarity, shaping the listener's experience with astonishing subtlety. Fortifications used angles, weight, and hidden mechanisms to create intelligent defenses that manipulated both physical and psychological space. Throughout these structures, inscriptions and symbols preserved technical knowledge, encoding wisdom for those patient enough to discern it. Simple tools, levers, pulleys, and counterweights became extensions of human thought, transforming labor into art. Unlike modern machines that display their function openly, ancient technologies often worked in silence, merging practicality with mystery. In contemplating these creations, we sense a deep rhythm, the harmony of observation, experimentation, and imagination. Ancient builders were not merely craftsmen, but philosophers of matter and motion. Their hidden technologies remind us that innovation need not shout. It can whisper softly through stone and time, leaving behind a legacy of wonder, patience, and enduring grace. As we continue our exploration of ancient ingenuity, we begin to perceive a subtler layer of human understanding. The mastery of energy, motion, and power within the devices and mechanisms of the past. Unlike the large-scale monuments, aqueducts, or bridges we have observed, these technologies often operated quietly, almost invisibly, harnessing natural forces to perform tasks, automate movement, or simulate life. The ancients understood, whether through intuition, observation, or experimentation, that energy could be transformed, controlled, and applied in ways that extend human capability far beyond the visible. These hidden rhythms of motion reveal not only technical skill, but a poetic awareness of the natural forces surrounding them. Water, in its flowing, persistent rhythm, was a cornerstone of many of these devices. Hydraulic systems were employed not only to supply cities and irrigate fields, but also to drive machinery, lift objects, and animate automata. Water clocks, or clepsydras, measured time through carefully calibrated flow, blending practical function with a contemplative awareness of the passage of moments. Beyond their utilitarian role, these mechanisms invite reflection. Water, endlessly moving, became a medium through which humans could observe, measure, and orchestrate the rhythm of both life and technology. In the movement of liquid, we sense the ancient mind attuned to the unseen currents of nature, translating them into subtle, precise motion. Air, too, was harnessed with careful observation. Pneumatic devices described by Greek engineers, such as Hero of Alexandria, used air pressure and vacuums to produce movement, open doors, and create sound. These mechanisms required not only a practical understanding of physical principles, but an imaginative application of invisible forces. Observing their operation, one can imagine the deliberate experimentation, adjustment, and refinement that were necessary to achieve functionality. The ancients were not simply manipulating matter. They were interacting with forces that are inherently invisible, learning to orchestrate them with patience and ingenuity, creating effects that inspired awe and contemplation. Weight and counterweight form another cornerstone of motion in ancient devices. Levers, pulleys, and carefully balanced systems allowed heavy objects to be moved, mechanical sequences to unfold, and automata to perform seemingly lifelike actions. A temple door might open by itself, powered by hidden counterweights. A fountain might spout water in precise arcs. A figure might move or gesture with a rhythm that appears almost magical. Each device embodies an intimate knowledge of balance, force, and energy transformation. The gentle elegance of these mechanisms speaks to a contemplative approach. Motion is not merely functional but orchestrated, a quiet symphony of cause and effect that invites the observer to marvel without urgency. Some of the most fascinating examples involve automata, machines designed to mimic life. From water-powered birds to mechanical theaters, these devices were not simple curiosities. They were intricate compositions of energy, motion, and design. The precise alignment of levers, pulleys, and channels allowed lifelike movement, coordinated sequences, and interactions with the environment. Observing these machines, even in imagination, evokes a profound sense of wonder. The ancients did not merely seek efficiency or amusement, but a poetic expression of motion, a reflection of natural rhythms rendered in wood, metal, and water. Each automaton is a meditation on the potential of energy, a dialogue between human creativity and the invisible forces of the world. Even the manipulation of sound can be understood as a form of harnessing energy. Ancient theaters, water organs, and ceremonial devices converted the movement of air or water into resonance, amplification, and musical expression. These instruments were subtle yet complex, requiring careful calibration, placement, and adjustment. They demonstrate a sensitivity to both physical laws and aesthetic experience, a harmony between technical understanding and emotional impact. Sound, like water or motion, becomes a medium through which human ingenuity engages with the unseen, producing effects that are both practical and mesmerizing, immediate yet contemplative. Fire and heat also appear in experimental and technological contexts, though often intertwined with ritual or symbolic purpose. Metallurgy, smelting, and alchemy required careful control of temperature, timing, and chemical reactions. Devices that used heat to produce motion, manipulate air, or trigger reactions reflect a sophisticated understanding of thermodynamics long before formal science codified such principles. The deliberate application of fire, controlled and measured, embodies a rhythm of experimentation that merges observation, patience, and reflection, a quiet mastery of energy in its most elemental form. Energy in these ancient systems is rarely isolated. It is relational. Water drives motion, air activates mechanisms, weight enables lifting, and heat triggers transformation. Each system operates in a balance of forces, a choreography that requires understanding of cause and effect across multiple dimensions. Even when devices are no longer physically preserved, descriptions and fragments suggest this interplay. The careful orchestration of energy, the modulation of force, and the integration of invisible dynamics to achieve purposeful action. Contemplating these interactions invites a meditative rhythm of thought, one in which curiosity and reflection flow alongside imagination. The subtle integration of energy management into everyday life also hints at the sophistication of ancient societies. Fountains, water clocks, automatic doors, and ceremonial automata were not merely curiosities. They were embedded in daily, social, and religious life, functioning quietly in the background, orchestrating experience without demanding attention. Energy was harnessed, transformed, and applied in ways that elevated human interaction with the environment, creating a seamless harmony between technology, ritual, and observation. In reflecting on these practices, one senses the thoughtful, contemplative approach that guided experimentation, engineering, and invention. The study of these energy-based devices also underscores a quiet principle of sustainability. The ancients relied on natural, renewable forces, flowing water, gravity, air currents, and human input, to power their mechanisms. Unlike modern engines dependent on fuel or electricity, these systems demonstrate efficiency, elegance, and harmony with the environment. Their disappearance is not due to inefficiency, but often to societal upheaval, the loss of contextual knowledge, or shifts in priorities. Yet the underlying principle endures. Energy can be transformed subtly and purposefully, creating motion, function, and aesthetic experience without disrupting natural balance. In contemplating the orchestration of motion and energy in ancient devices, one also perceives the philosophical undercurrents embedded in technology. The ancients appear to have understood that forces, visible and invisible, could be harmonized, choreographed, and expressed with elegance. Motion was not simply practical. It was a medium for reflection, observation, and poetic expression. Automata, fountains, and mechanical devices reveal an awareness of rhythm, timing, and interconnection, encouraging the observer to enter a quiet, contemplative state. Knowledge and energy become inseparable, each enhancing the other, creating a delicate interplay that resonates across centuries. Ultimately, the hidden mastery of energy, motion, and power is a testament to human curiosity, patience, and imagination. These devices, though often lost, hint at a deep understanding of forces, balance, and the interplay between natural phenomena and human intent. They invite the mind to dwell, to reflect, and to imagine, transforming observation into meditation. In tracing their quiet rhythms, we participate in a continuity of thought and creativity, perceiving the pulse of ingenuity that connects past and present, seen and unseen, material and invisible. In the gentle contemplation of these ancient devices, a subtle sense of wonder emerges. The ancients transformed natural forces into movement, sound, and action, often hidden beneath the surface or embedded in ceremonial, functional, or aesthetic contexts. Their ingenuity, patience, and sensitivity to the rhythms of energy create a meditative space for reflection, allowing us to engage not only with history, but with the enduring principles of observation, experimentation, and creativity. In this quiet contemplation, the pulse of ancient technology continues to resonate, a soft reminder of human potential and the timeless interplay between energy, motion, and imagination. As we explore the legacy of ancient technologies, it becomes clear that their purpose went far beyond practical use. Many ancient devices and constructions carried deep symbolic and philosophical meaning, blending function with imagination and spirituality. For the ancients, technology was not just a tool, but a medium through which cosmic order and human understanding could meet. In temples, observatories, and sacred spaces, instruments like water clocks and automata embodied both precision and poetry, marking time, symbolizing balance, and mirroring the rhythms of the universe. The alignment of temples with celestial events revealed a harmony between human intention and cosmic movement, turning architecture into an instrument of contemplation. Mystical traditions often intertwined with these inventions. Alchemists, for instance, used materials and fire to express transformation and unity, while mechanical devices represented motion, life, or divine energy. Geometry and proportion guided design, not only for beauty or stability, but as reflections of universal harmony. Even sound became part of this philosophy, echoing through ancient theaters and fountains, merging vibration with emotion and thought. The ancients often concealed their knowledge within intricate mechanisms and symbols, encouraging slow discovery and reflection. Through energy, motion, and alignment, they explored natural laws as expressions of deeper truths. Each device, whether a clock, fountain, or structure, became a quiet dialogue between matter and meaning. Ultimately, these creations remind us that ancient technology was both practical and poetic, joining observation, meditation, and imagination. It reflected humanity's timeless desire to understand and express the hidden rhythms of existence. In their balance of precision and mystery, we find not just the origins of engineering, but a profound meditation on life, harmony, and the enduring spirit of curiosity. As we approach the threshold of our journey, there's a quiet pause, a gentle space to reflect on the connections between what has been lost and what remains in the imagination. The ancient technologies we have explored, automata, hydraulic systems, celestial instruments, and hidden mechanisms, are not merely artifacts or curiosities. They are bridges linking our contemporary awareness with the minds of those who came before. In their disappearance, they leave room for thought, speculation, and reverent wonder. The gaps in history, far from creating emptiness, allow the mind to drift, to reconstruct, to imagine the pulse of human ingenuity across centuries. Lost inventions, fragmentary devices, and concealed mechanisms prompt us to consider how knowledge is both preserved and ephemeral. Civilizations rose and fell. Manuscripts were lost or destroyed, and objects decayed, leaving only traces of what was once known. Yet within these traces lies a persistent rhythm of curiosity, a thread of human thought that stretches across time. Observing the remnants, we begin to sense patterns, principles, and intentions, understanding that the act of discovery is as much about imagination as it is about facts. In this sense, the ancient world continues to teach, to guide, and to inspire, not through full knowledge, but through the quiet hum of possibility. The interplay of light and shadow, seen and unseen, known and mysterious, continues to resonate in these reflections. Every device or structure invites the observer to engage not only with its function, but also with the invisible principles it embodies. A water clock is as much about the rhythm of life as it is about measurement. A hidden automaton is as much about motion and balance as it is about creativity, observation, and reflection. These subtle, layered meanings cultivate a calm curiosity, a meditative engagement in which the mind moves slowly, tracing cause and effect, pondering intention and design, and gently drifting through centuries of human thought. Modern curiosity intersects with these ancient rhythms in unexpected ways. In the absence of physical examples, imagination becomes a laboratory, and reflection becomes a method of inquiry. Scholars, historians, engineers, and dreamers reconstruct, hypothesize, and visualize, bridging gaps with intuition and creativity. The act of imagining lost mechanisms or recreating ancient experiments is itself a form of participation in the continuum of knowledge. We are drawn into a dialogue across time, where observation, experimentation, and reflection coexist with speculation and wonder, creating a rhythm that is both contemplative and intellectually engaging. There is also a profound lesson in patience embedded in this reflection. The ancients operated with deliberate care, observing natural forces, experimenting methodically, and integrating their insights into devices, structures, and rituals. Their approach reminds us that curiosity is not a race. Understanding unfolds over time, often in subtle increments. By allowing the mind to engage with these silent rhythms, we participate in the same contemplative process, observing patterns, tracing connections, and cultivating a sense of quiet awe at the ingenuity and patience of human thought. Ultimately, these reflections guide us toward a deeper appreciation of the relationship between knowledge, imagination, and mystery. Ancient technologies were never purely utilitarian. They were expressions of creativity, philosophy, and a harmonious engagement with natural forces. In contemplating their presence, absence, and subtle rhythms, we participate in a gentle meditation on human potential, the flow of ideas, and the enduring curiosity that links past and present. Each fragment, sketch, or description becomes a portal, inviting the mind to drift across time, to inhabit the spaces of thought, and to engage with the quiet pulse of discovery. In this gentle bridge, the lost and the remembered converge. We recognize that knowledge is never absolute, that mystery and discovery coexist, and that curiosity is a thread connecting centuries of human ingenuity. As the mind drifts through these connections, a soft awareness emerges that the pulse of invention, the rhythm of experimentation, and the subtle poetry of ancient technologies continue to resonate, guiding us gently toward reflection, imagination, and quiet wonder. In this space, history, mystery, and contemplation converge, preparing the mind for the final reflection on the enduring legacy of what humanity was never meant to remember. The night grows quiet as the echoes of ancient wonders fade into a gentle hum. Humanity's story, full of discovery and loss, continues in endless rhythm, each age remembering fragments of what was once known. The forgotten technologies, the whispered powers, the sacred fires, all drift through time like dreams that never fully vanish. Perhaps forgetting is not failure, but a necessary pause, allowing wonder to return when the world is ready to remember. The stars above have watched countless civilizations rise and fall, yet their light remains unchanged, patient and knowing. What was once divine fire now glows in electric light. What was sacred geometry now lives in science. The cycle continues, soft and eternal. Knowledge asleep, waiting to awaken. As the final words fade, the listener is invited into stillness. The mysteries of the past rest gently within us, not lost, only dreaming. And in that dream lies comfort. That everything forgotten is simply waiting to be found again when the earth and we are ready to remember.